The General Services Administration has updated its contractor cybersecurity requirements. The standards are similar to the Pentagon's Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification Program, but there are also some key differences in GSA standards that are causing consternation in the industry. Federal News Network's Justin Doubleday joins me now with more details. Justin, thanks for being here.
Great to be with you, Terry.
What is GSA planning to evaluate when it looks at the cybersecurity practices of its contractors?
Yeah, well, GSA kind of quietly released this new IT security guide back at the beginning of the year, and it lays out protection requirements for controlled unclassified information in non-federal systems. So in plain speak, that's sensitive data that GSA has to share with contractors as a result of doing business with those contractors. And what GSA wants to do is to have contractors not only provide documentation that they have secure systems that are managing this data, but as part of this new guide, it would also require contractors to go and get an independent assessment of its cybersecurity practices. And those cybersecurity practices are supposed to be in line with National Institutes of Standards and Technology controls. NIST has a whole publication all around protecting CUI in non-federal systems. And so that's what these GSA standards would be based on, similar to the CMMC, the Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification Program up at the Pentagon. So that's where they're kind of aligned, but there are some pretty big differences that have created some initial headaches for folks in industry who are trying to digest these new GSA requirements.
Well, you're right. It does sound similar to CMMC, including the independent audit, but walk us through some of the differences that you're hearing.
Well, the key difference is kind of wonky, but stick with me here. So the NIST standards, the special publication for protecting CUI, has a couple of different revisions. These are essentially additions. NIST updates these publications over time to, of course, stay up to date with technology and the latest cybersecurity practices. So GSA's new standards here are based on revision 3 of this NIST publication. CMMC, by contrast, is based on revision 2. The reason for CMMC being based on that earlier edition that came out several years ago is because the Pentagon had to go through a really lengthy rulemaking process to get CMMC on the books. And they have to go through another rulemaking process just to update to revision 3. And so a lot of defense contractors have already or are now setting up their cybersecurity programs to be based on the revision 2 standards. GSA here, it has gone to revision 3 well ahead of when DoD was planning to. And there are some pretty big differences in the two different publications. Revision 3 is actually a little bit harder, a little bit higher of a bar, better cybersecurity, but also essentially more compliance cost for contractors to fall in line. And that's a really big difference. That's a lot of folks in industry are saying, hey, GSA, you've gotten out in front of where a lot of the defense industry is going, and there's a lot of overlap between the contractors there.
Right. I was just thinking there are contractors who support DoD and also the civilian agencies. Are they going to be held to both standards, or what other sorts of challenges might they face in trying to comply with both sets of guidance?
Yeah, I spoke with a few folks, including Trey Hodgkins, who is an independent consultant, but also chairs the cybersecurity division for the National Defense Industrial Association, NDIA. He essentially said that it's going to create a difference in the product costs that a vendor can offer to GSA versus DoD. And then, as you point out, of course, if there's a vendor that supports both GSA and DoD, if it wants to continue supporting GSA, it would have to update to that higher level bar. And that's where, you might see contractors make a choice and say, we'll just go all in on DoD for now because that's where we are. And GSA obviously would not want to see, their contractors potentially exit doing business with them because of these standards. But that's the risk that some folks are talking about right now with these new GSA requirements.
It sounds like there's a lot for industry to consider, but are there other places where the GSA requirements differ from other standards that are out there? We've talked about CMMC, but maybe there are some other places where contractors are already in compliance and now will have to adjust?
Well, there's one that's pretty interesting that I want to highlight. The new IT security guide that GSA put out there that has these requirements that we're talking about for, NIST standards and things like that. It also has a cyber incident reporting requirement, and this would require contractors to report cyber incidents within 1 hour to GSA, which is really quick compared to a lot of other standards that are out there. CMMC has a 72-hour reporting requirement. That's in line with these new cyber incident reporting regulations that are going to apply across different critical infrastructure sectors out of the Department of Homeland Security. So there's like the 72-hour requirement that a lot of folks are already aware of. GSA here for its contractors under this new IT security guide would require 1 hour, which, I haven't had gotten a lot of feedback yet from folks in industry about that one, but I guarantee you that would create even more consternation because, the reporting requirements are essentially seen as a burden in industry already. And so 24 hours is pretty fast for some contractors in the defense industry space. 72 hours is kind of this across the board standard. And now you have GSA moving forward with a 1 hour standard. So that could create some more challenges here.
I can only imagine that contractors are wondering if there'd be anybody on the other end of the line when they report that. Yeah. So what will happen next now that GSA has put these standards out? Are they going to hold to it? Are they taking comments? What's going to go on?
Yeah, this is just an IT security guide that GSA released without any sort of comment period or anything like that. So they could notionally apply these to contracts or solicitations today. That hasn't happened yet. And, I've reached out to GSA. If we hear back from them about their plans for implementing these requirements or their response to the industry feedback we've been talking about, go to our website. We'll have that update on our website if we hear back from them. But right now we haven't seen these actually implemented. They are just kind of hanging out there. And so it'll be interesting to see whether GSA does include these in a solicitation moving forward, whether it changes track because of a lot of this feedback that they're getting, or whether it does something else to kind of align their new standards here with CMMC and other government standards.
Well, there's certainly going to be a lot to watch, Justin, and so we know you'll keep us posted.
Absolutely. Check out our website for the latest and greatest on all things cyber compliance.
That's Federal News Network's Justin Doubleday. Justin, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Terry.
You can find his story at federalnewsnetwork.com.